If you keep focusing on something another person doesn't want, you never find the bridge to each other. Actually, you have to talk about what the situation could become and what would be the benefit for the other person. Try to imagine how it could be, and yeah, you must do it together. You must be part of it, not standing above it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Active Towns channel. My name is John Simmerman, and that is Christian Ratering from the village of Renkum in the province of Herteland, down by Arnhem and Nijmegen. We are going to have a conversation about a really important document, plan, if you will, a mobility plan that the village has pulled together, the MVP, and then we'll also talk a little bit about some fascinating research that he is doing along his PhD. But before we can do that, I just want to say, if you are enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Really helps out a great deal. Just click on the join button right here on YouTube, or head on over to activetowns.org, click on the support tab at the top of the page, and there's several different options, including making a donation to the nonprofit, making a contribution via Buy Me a Coffee, or becoming a Patreon supporter. Patrons do get early and ad-free access to all my video content. Okay, let's get right to it with Christian. Christian, thank you so much for joining me on the Active Towns podcast.
Wonderful. Welcome. It's nice to be here.
Well, I always love giving my guests just a really quick opportunity to introduce themselves. So who the heck is Christian?
Okay, my name is Christian. I'm a senior policymaker for the municipality of Renkum. And beside that, I'm a PhD for Radboud University. I work for the municipality where I was born, so I'm very proud to do so.
That's fantastic, fantastic. And before we hit the record button, you and I were having a discussion about the definitions of various forms of municipalities. And we have determined that Renkum is a village, not a city per se. And on Google Maps here, if we try to figure out where you are relative to everything else in the Netherlands, it's considered a part of the eastern edge of the Netherlands, not too terribly far from the German border, and you're very close to Arnhem and Nijmegen and all of that. And so, yeah, you're not a city in the official definition. You're a village, the municipality, and all of that. What's the population size of the village?
About 32,000 inhabitants.
Fantastic, yes. And it looks like you are very close to the river. I believe it's one of the rivers that, is part of the Rhine system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a very important river.
Yeah, it's a very important river, and of course, down in Nijmegen they have the also very, very important tributary part of the river, and again that relationship to Germany and that relationship to the Rhine Valley there as well. So you've been invited onto the Active Towns podcast to discuss a couple of different things, and one is really a really cool development that took place, and the whole reason I reached out to you. Please share. Why did I reach out to you?
Yes, well, lots of people are very curious about the Renkum Mobility Vision Plan.
Yeah,
that has been established by the City Council in unanimity. So we are very proud of that. And we are going in a completely different direction than people are used to. For example, our departure is to give every child from the age of 8 years old the right to go to school by bike or by feet independently, and to give elderly the opportunity to grow old in dignity in our community.
Right. And so in my terminology, and I've been talking about this for well over a decade, is that we want to try to transform our built environment of our cities, our towns, our villages, so that it is a safe and welcoming environment for literally all ages and all abilities, which really spans the spectrum of everybody. We want this to be an inviting environment and provide accessibility to everyone. And I'm really glad that you framed it the way that you did, of talking about the children, but also talking about the elderly. And then later on, we're going to also talk about the all ages or all abilities side of things too, because sometimes that gets forgotten. Sometimes it gets conflated with the elderly, and say, oh, well, as you get older and older and older, maybe you lose some of your abilities. But it means more than that, because there could be physical disabilities, there could be other types of disabilities as well. And your area of study is, of course, working in the areas of anxiety and some of the abilities that we need to take into account. And then I've had other discussions with folks with neurodivergent types of situations, people who maybe have autism and other types of things, and dealing with how the environment works for them. But let's stick right here with the MVP and talk a little bit about the village and why you all have decided to really lean into this and formalize this in the form of an actual plan and document.
Well, there are several reasons. For one is that in our region, there have to be built about 100,000 extra houses until the year 2040. It's meaning the region is Arnhem, Nijmegen, and Ede, Wageningen. If you take in account that every house will result into at least 5 or 6 ways by car per day, it's undoable to ask from the mobility system to resolve this kind of amount of traffic. It's impossible.
No, wait a minute. You're sounding awfully pragmatic about this. It's like, what do you mean you can't put that many cars in there? In other words, what you're saying is your village is understanding some of the things that our cities in North America couldn't seem to understand, is that you just can't keep adding more cars to the road in the system.
No, because you also have other demands in space. I mean, it's not just that you have to park your car somewhere, but we are also having some issues with climate, meaning a lot of rain, a lot of heat, and we have to think also as well, how do we use our spatial dimensions to give answers to these questions.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention what you were saying earlier, too, is that you want to be able to ensure that people have the ability and the freedom, and it feels welcoming to all ages and abilities to be able to get around by walking and biking. That doesn't happen very well if you just keep adding more cars.
No, exactly, because cars, they are asking space, and in the last few years cars also became larger and larger.
Exactly.
So they're asking even more space. Sometimes people think a huge car means safety, but it's safety for the driver itself and not for the people around the car, especially young children.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's important to give some visuals as to what the village is like. And so you were gracious enough to send a few photos along. I know that the city, in doing my research, has been around a long time. This is a very historic city. It's been around for over 1,000 years. And you're, as you said, a proud, resident of, and someone who was born and raised there. Talk a little bit about the city and why you're so proud about the village. And I called it a city again, but it really is a village. The municipality is talk a little bit about how the reason why you're so excited about seeing this transformation to create a safer, more inviting environment for all ages and all abilities. and I guess address the 800-pound gorilla in the room, as we say in the
Yeah.
terminology, because for some of us, we just assume that these villages are already idyllic and very walkable and bikeable.
hmm No, I love this village. I was born in this village. I have spent many years here together with my grandparents. The city also has a very strong relationship with the Second World War. I mean, every year we have celebrations to remember also the fallen soldiers.
And if I can interject, I mean that strong relationship with it is also associated with your neighbors, down the way in Nijmegen as well,
Yeah,
because they.
Nijmegen and Arnhem as well. For example, in Arnhem you have a place. It's called Gele Rijdersplein. It's like a plaza, but the name Gele Rijders comes from the soldiers who were located here, and one of those soldiers was my grandfather. So for
Wow.
me, it has
Yes.
a very strong connection.
Yes,
So
for sure.
and Oosterbeek, it's as a kid I was many times here because also my grandparents they brought me there, and it's the people are very nice, very warm, and the nature is wonderful. You have great visions, and also in Oosterbeek you feel very well connected with Arnhem, and we have I have a strong connection also with Arnhem. That's the big city.
The big city, yeah.
That's the big
It's close by.
city,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's also a reason for developing such a mobility vision plan because we know what developments are coming ahead of us from the big city, and also we have to be prepared to 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 deal with that. Because if we don't take measurements, the amount of cars will rise, and the livability of our municipality will become less and less.
Yeah. So here's an off-topic question for you, about Arnhem and also Nijmegen, in that region. Are you a football fan? Do you follow any of the teams in the region there?
Ah, I love football, but they are not located here.
They're not located there. Okay, it's not that one. Very good, because I know that there's quite a rivalry between the Arnhem and
Yeah,
teams and the
yeah.
Nijmegen. Yeah,
It
yeah.
used to be between Arnhem and Nijmegen, yes, of course. But I really, in my opinion, that's childish. I think everyone should enjoy the game
Exactly,
and
exactly. And
enjoy
I
it together
and
with
and
your
I
friends.
was I was there last summer when the Dutch were playing in the World or the Euro, tournament. So I was able to be swept up in all of the excitement and watching all of the international games. And so that was a great, all the matches. That was great, and it was wonderful. And the Dutch actually the Dutch team made it quite far, relatively speaking, in that tournament. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're paused on a photo here. Is this your bike in frame in the
No,
photo?
no, no. It was someone else, but I really like that to see
Yeah,
that.
it's
It's
a
one
nice
of
pop
the
of color. You've got that nice little red bike. It looks like it's actually an electric assist bike, and we can talk a little bit about that from an empowerment perspective, because we are seeing worldwide now that, especially for the elderly, one of the things that's keeping them riding is the ability to feel like they've got a little bit of an electric assist to be able to do that. But yeah, so you framed this. We've got these beautiful images of the village. It's a delightful place to be from, and so you've been working for the municipality for how long? How long have you been working for the
uh,
municipality?
a little bit more than a year now.
Okay, fantastic. So a little bit more than a year. You're working on your PhD. We talked a little bit about that, and here's that image again of the report, or the MVP. Set this up a little bit more. Dive a little deeper into what we're going to be, talking about in terms of how the village is going to achieve what it wants to achieve in terms of providing mobility accessibility for all ages and all abilities.
Yeah, actually, we would like to connect a lot with our inhabitants. to do things together. Um, we are using a transition strategy because we have to learn doing things different from the time before. Um, we have in the Netherlands a lot of guidelines, national guidelines, but those most of those guidelines were developed based on a car-dominated period of mobility planning, and now we are changing. Most municipalities they are thinking to change, to start first with pedestrians, then cyclists, then public transports, and so on. So it also means you have to come up with a different view on where to start from.
Yeah, and in frame here, this is part of the document that was prepared for the municipality. We see a visually impaired person walking with her guide dog and also her walking cane as well, navigating around. So again, you mentioned it earlier. It's like it should be a welcoming environment for the youngest as well as the oldest and everyone in between, and regardless of their quote unquote abilities at the moment.
Yes, it needs to be an environment for everyone, regardless of the impairment. Yeah, I would suggest not to use the word disability, but
Yeah,
impairment.
exactly. It can be it can be like you the word you used, which is an impairment. That
Yes,
and
yes,
I do when I talk about abilities, I do like to say that we are all on a continuum of varying stages of ability or disabilities, depending on where we're at. Because we could be completely fine. In fact, I'll tell you a side story. Do you know Melissa Bruntlett? Do you by chance know
yes,
Melissa? Yeah, so
yes,
Melissa,
yes.
yeah, so Melissa, she's recently gone out on her own, and she has her own firm now, and she's talking, working a lot globally. But one of the things that she likes to remind us is, yeah, even when we're quote unquote able-bodied, a simple misstep could cause a disability of sorts, and she had a situation where I think she hurt her knee or her leg or something like that, and couldn't have the same level of getting around, and so she experienced what it was like to have to get some assistance from Chris as well as ride in a cargo bike a little bit. And so it's a good reminder for us all that we're all on this continuum of varying stages.
Yes, yes. It's very important to have that in mind. And it's not always visible.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a little bit. I'm honed in on this particular photograph because this is in the document that you've prepared, and it brings up this concept that I've talked about a lot on the Active Towns channel, which is that the cities, our villages, our towns, our communities should truly be an environment where it empowers kids to be able to thrive and be able to get around and do things. My good friend Tim Gill from London, talks about how these spaces have really become constrained for children. It's like they didn't have the amount of range that they used to have, and we need to reconfigure our communities so that kids can. He calls it an urban playground. Is that our communities should be welcoming to kids. So my question for you is, how realistic is that in a world that now accommodates cars over people?
Actually, we had a lot of support, so I think it's realistic. I think the majority they would like to see things different. It's actually the group of car owners who are really holding strong to what they possess right now. It's actually a small group, but they have a loud voice.
I'm glad you said it that way too, because we see this globally. This is something, I don't know if you know this, but this is something that I deal with, whether I'm talking with folks in Europe, through North America, down under in Australia and New Zealand, even in Africa. This is a common theme, is that those voices that are arguing against creating streets for people and communities that, you know, welcome people and are people oriented and embrace all ages and abilities, they're not really the majority, but they're loud voices, and sometimes they're powerful voices because sometimes they are very powerful entities. Walk us through this. Is an interesting diagram because I think it gets to the point that you're talking about and the reason why you're, you know, optimistic that things can change.
I actually, these are examples that things really can change, especially, well, Iași is in Romania. I was in that town, a city actually, it's a big city. They really realized this ambition, and it's really wonderful to walk freely on the street, to go to stores wherever you want without being bothered by passing cars. Utrecht, they really did a great job to bring the water back into the city.
Right.
And I lived near Utrecht for almost 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I saw this city really developing in a direction of more giving more space to pedestrians and cyclists.
Now, you said you lived near there. Were you in a nearby village or?
Yes, yes,
Which one?
yes. Nieuwegein. It's in the south
Ah,
of Utrecht.
okay.
And yeah, I used to work there for almost 19, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. And when during my visit last summer, I was in Utrecht central area for 3 weeks. And so that's where I was based out of, and then doing trips via rail all around Europe and visiting. So that's fantastic. I'm really glad that you mentioned, you know, and use these examples, because these are examples that really exemplify that what we did as humans is we took our villages, our habitat, our human habitats that for thousands of years were really oriented around people, around the idea that, you know, you can get to or your meaningful destinations by walking, and then the bicycle came along, and then by biking. But when the automobile came around and we leaned into modernity and like we need to be able to motor everywhere, we did silly things like what you see in these photos here, which is we leaned into transforming, like silly enough, like transforming what was a beautiful waterway into a motorway, and then realized, oh, that wasn't such a good idea. And so we transform it back into the example of in Amsterdam here is where we see these old historic streets, you know, were converted into traffic sewers, automobile sewers, where you're trying to cram as many automobiles through. And in some cases, even in Amsterdam, there was the famous cases of when they started to tear down a lot of historic older buildings and to make room for more cars, only to put a stop to that as well and say, no, this isn't the right way to go. You don't have photos here of Rotterdam, but Rotterdam's another great example of where they rebuilt after World War II. They rebuilt with the automobile in mind. Fast forward a few decades, same thing. They realized, oh, autocentricity, becoming auto-dependent, is not the right way to create a vibrant, healthy community. So I guess my whole point of pointing this out is that one of the things that I love about the Dutch is you all like look at things and say, just because it's set in stone, just because we've built it in asphalt, doesn't mean we can't change it if it was the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, this costs money.
It costs money.
How do you come up with the money to actually do this?
I think, yeah, Utrecht is a very rich city. Maybe perhaps I shouldn't say that. No,
That's okay. I've had their city staff on. I think they would agree that they have the resources to correct their mistakes when the mistakes are identified.
Exactly. You need to have the resources, and that's a big issue at this moment. Also, a lot of municipalities, they will have some difficulties in the next year because the national government are cutting the budgets.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's something, but it's can also be an opportunity. I spoke with a professor who teaches in Amsterdam, and he told me that Amsterdam could make some changes because they didn't have enough budget, and that gave an opportunity to develop more cycling paths. And
I'm really glad that you framed it that way, because one of the things that I try to emphasize a lot is that when people complain and say, oh, our pockets are empty, we don't have the money to create more walking and biking infrastructure and environment, I say, hold on, stop, because it's far cheaper and far less expensive to create people-oriented places than car-oriented places. And somehow they magically come up with money to do motorway expansions. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you framed it that way, and I'm glad that they framed it that way, is that the whole reason why we're leaning in towards more walkable and bikeable environment is there's a better return on investment, and it's nowhere near as expensive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also, we must think that um, one municipality can't do that on its own. They have to work together with the people. You have to do it together.
Right.
Often I see people think, oh, it's them, the citizens, and it's us, the government. But it should be us. We do it together, and that's also something we put in our mobility vision plan.
Right.
We try to use experiments and to get citizens involved.
Yes. Yes. That's a really good point too. And the Dutch famously have a history of coming together to solve problems. Is very much a part of your DNA, of like communicating, engaging, and talking about and coming up with solutions. The terminology escapes me, is something like the polder concept, and really coming to yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's and so you're working for the municipality. You're helping pull together this plan and put this plan forward, and you're engaging community members. I suspect that there's oftentimes divergent, points of view, and saying, well, no, I drive a car. I like to drive a car. I want to drive a car as fast as possible. Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
So what is that process like? I mean, I know what it devolves in many other cities around the world. It devolves into shouting matches and saying you're hindering my rights so that you can make it easy for kids to walk and bike to school, or the elderly to get to their social activities. How dare you?
Yeah, that's really an issue. Well, if you keep focusing on something another person doesn't want, you never find the bridge to each other. Actually, you have to talk about what a situation could become and what would be the benefit for the other person. Try to to imagine how it could be, and yeah, you must do it together. You must be part of it, not standing above it.
Yeah. I'm going to pull up a graph from the document here, and I'll have you help me out because my Dutch is not so very good right now. What is this figure outlining, and what are you trying to communicate with this?
These are the amount of commuters between Oosterbeek and Wageningen, Oosterbeek and Ede, and Overbetuwe and Oosterbeek. So then we know how many people are traveling from their a place of origin to our to our municipality, and the other one is Arnhem, and it's gives us some insights what the potential is for regional city itineraries.
And that's a really good point too, because as a village, a not so huge village, but as you mentioned, the need to be able to build more housing, and we're seeing that throughout that whole region of Arnhem and also in Nijmegen, that's happening. Is you can't just think of yourself as this little isolated island. It has to be in the context that you have these commutes happening. And one of the things that I love about the area there in the Netherlands is that there's these wonderful very comfortable pathways, fietspads and whatnot, that you're able to ride, the whatever it is. How many kilometers is it from the village to Arnhem?
How many kilometers
Yeah.
from
What's the
Oosterbeek to
distance?
Arnhem?
Yeah, what's
It's
the
4
distance?
kilometers. Four.
Yeah, see, that's very
It's four. I
that's
could
very
even walk.
rideable. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's rideable. The only thing is in our area there are some hills. If you have a normal bike, it can be a challenge. Some people like the challenge, but when you have e-bikes, it's very easy to do.
I think that, and I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because I travel internationally with my Brompton. And so I'm able to fold it up, put it on the train, take it with me, immediately get off and ride to my destination, film all around the area. And people ask me, is it difficult? Is it hard to be able to ride up hills? And I'm like, oh no. It's quite, because you have the gearing system. And so since I am used to riding in very, very steep environments, like in the Rocky Mountains and other places, the gears make all the difference. I'm 60 years old, so there may be a day when I need a little bit of an electric assist on that Brompton, but right now I can still get around with it just as it is. Before we move on to talking about your research that you're working on and the thing that we hinted on of talking about the ability side of all ages and abilities, is there anything else that you wanted to cover about the MVP and what y'all are striving to want to see? What will success look like in the future for you?
Yeah, if we succeed, then every child from the age of 8 years old will have the right to cycle independently or walk independently from and to school. That would be the best result, I think. It's not only important it's very important for the child, not only for moving around independently, but also for its cognitive potential. There's a huge body of research on this topic, and it shows that children will do much, much better in school when they are able to do things independently.
Yeah. I pulled up the stomp figure, which is here, and we can kind of get a sense as to what this is all about. Again, not to put you on the spot and stereotype, but oftentimes many people's impressions from around the globe is that, wait a minute, I thought the Dutch already have this all figured out. I thought this was a utopia. I thought the kids were able to get everywhere they needed to get to.
Yeah, when I was a kid, yes. But, yeah, I grew. No, actually, but also it depends on the city. I grew up in an area where I could walk to school without needing my parents, or even by bike. And in my opinion, I thought it was great. I didn't depend on anyone. I could do things on my own, and it helped me to develop.
Well, I think this is a good part for us to sort of pivot and talk a little bit about the research. So we've alluded to it a couple of times. You're working on your PhD. You've been doing that for since 2020. Share with the audience, what is it you're working on, and why are you so passionate about that topic?
Yeah, I'm doing research about people experiencing anxiety disorder and moving around with that in our mobility system. Actually, I'm married to a psychologist, So together we discussed this topic before, and she helped. Actually, she inspired me to do this research because she told me that there are clients that would like to go to their appointment to get their treatment, but when they travel to the place, something happens and they don't arrive, so they can't get better actually. So that impressed me a lot, and it's also not that these are people with really serious mental illness. These are just common people. It can be my neighbor, it can be my parents, my grandfather, who knows? And it can happen from one day to the other, just suddenly, without any indication that this would happen. So that made me realize that our mobility system is not as just as it should be. And also in that time, I worked for a different municipality, and they had a tunnel which was only to be used for pedestrians and cyclists. And I did a research on cycling in the city town, and I discovered that many people they didn't want to use that tunnel. So I start digging what is going on in this area. So and then I discovered that most people they prefer to cycle 3 kilometers extra instead of using the tunnel. And mostly it was related to fear, anxiety.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to make too many assumptions about that, but does it fall back to some of the things that we know about making tunnels and underpasses more inviting to everyone, or in terms of like lighting, and can you see daylight through the other end, and is it beautiful? Is there some, is there
Yeah,
brightness? Is there colors? Is it along those lines?
I think that may be one of the outcomes. I'm still developing a theoretical framework.
Right.
So how to study this subject because it's totally new. We have tried to look for literature on this topic. There isn't any, so we are really like pioneers. There isn't even a theoretical framework how to study this topic. So that's what I'm working at this moment to get such a framework. But yeah, the impact is huge. I mean, there are a lot of people. They have this experience, and they relocated their place of living to be closer to their job and not to need to drive over the highway, for example.
Right. Yeah. Talk about an anxiety inducing activity, hurling yourself through space in a metal box on wheels at speeds that can kill yourself and other people. That's pretty anxiety inducing. Okay, so we're looking at an image. This is still from the document that you all have put together, the plan that you all have put together. It's a wonderful image that encapsulates again all ages and all abilities. From your perspective and what little advances you have been able to make within studying people who are suffering from anxiety, is this an environment? Is a walking environment a place that's gets you easily by walking to a meaningful destination? Does this help, or does this have challenges too?
Yeah, it helps. It helps a lot. Actually, most people with anxiety disorders, they are able to walk. It also depends on the severity, to what distance. But when I refer to our mobility vision plan, which is for everyone, we know that our population is growing old, and not everyone will be able to cycle or to drive by car. So we have to take in account which walking itineraries are beneficial for them.
Yeah, yeah. I have on screen now a shot of some mobility trikes, and I'm not sure if any of these are the Van Ram brand, but I've profiled this type of mobility system as well. The ability to be on a trike where you can be sitting next to another person, a mobility device. I could also see that that could be a situation where when somebody's suffering from intense anxiety disorder and challenges with that, they could be with their partner and be able to sit in a side by side and be able to, again, get fresh air, get some exercise, be able to get to meaningful destinations. So sometimes it's also making sure that we create a mobility system that also starts to accommodate and really welcome wider footprint types of devices like this. In other words, making sure that when we're building out our mobility systems within our communities, that we're looking at our cycle paths and our routes and making sure that they can accommodate some of our wider vehicles such as this. And also there was an image in your report too of a cargo bike, for deliveries and everything. So that's one of the things that I'm also seeing in the Netherlands is you all are realizing that, we may need to make our cycle paths a little wider because we're seeing, more use and also use of more of wider vehicles, including vehicles that could accommodate somebody with challenges. Yeah.
Yes, and that's ask also from us to remove the barriers which are really in the middle of the cycle path.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I do an image here from North America and we have our protected bike lanes and separated facilities, and we have an unfortunate situation where when that gets built, the motor vehicle drivers are like, oh, look, I don't want to be in my lane. I want to take their lane. And so they drive down them. And of course, that makes it very dangerous. And so what we have to do is we have to put a bollard in the middle. And I know that you all have done that in past decades, but I know that there's a process, a move to try to remove those bollards because they can be very dangerous for folks. But I do reinforce for the Dutch audience that, yeah, we still have to put them in because if you don't, the drivers will claim it as their own space and either park in there or drive down it.
Yeah. But here in the Netherlands, we have plenty of such locations as well. But it depends what you would like to choose for. Also, as the government, what do you want to choose? Do you take the measurements to avoid cars are driving over the cycle path? Or do you want to be an ambassador for cycling?
Yeah. This is fascinating. I really look forward to coming to visit you. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I'm not coming this year. My travel plans this year are to use the train and get around North America versus last year I was on the train and with my Brompton getting around Europe. But I do look forward to visiting you at one day soon and seeing how this is developing. Is there anything that we haven't discussed yet that you want to make sure to leave the audience with, either from the stuff we've talked about from the municipality side or the research that you're working on?
No, I don't think so. I think we discussed a lot. And if people want to learn more, they can read the article, and they also can look at the site of the Urban Cycling Institute, because that's in English. And if they have questions, of course, they can ask me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And we'll close this out with this beautiful image that is from the document, the plan that you all have put together, and really, again, kind of encapsulating the spirit that we're talking about. Is we're trying to create an environment where accessibility is open for all ages and all abilities. Christian, this has been such a joy and pleasure having you on. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Yes, thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Christian. If you did, please, hey, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below and share it with a friend. And if you haven't done so already, I'd be honored to have you subscribe to the channel. Just click on the subscription button down below and ring that notifications bell. And again, if you're enjoying this content here on the Active Towns channel, please consider supporting my efforts by becoming an Active Towns ambassador. Super easy to do. Just click on the join button right here on YouTube down below. You can also leave a tip via YouTube Super Thanks or navigate over to activetowns.org. Click on the support tab at the top of the page, and there's several different options, including making a contribution to the nonprofit. You can buy me a coffee, as well as you can become a Patreon supporter. Patrons do get early and ad-free access to all my video content. And hey, every little bit helps and is so much appreciated. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, this is John signing off by wishing you much activity, health, and happiness. Cheers. And again, just want to send a huge thank you to all my Active Towns ambassadors supporting the channel financially via YouTube memberships, YouTube super thanks, as well as making contributions to the nonprofit and joining my Patreon. Every little bit adds up and is very much appreciated. Thank you all so much.